Or do I just start hitting you from the beginning?
No, don't just start hitting me from the beginning. They won't understand.
Do I say now?
Okay. All right. Additional thoughts on graduation. And I'm starting the video with some assistance because I have an unpopular opinion. In my opinion, graduation is not as good as late registration. Okay. Ow! Okay, that's it. That's all I needed.
Just one more.
Oh, God. Here comes one more. Oh, God.
Okay, I'm done.
So I asked her to provide assistance so that she could beat me over the head in place of you guys.
You should have bad opinions more often.
Graduation is a great album. It's a great album. And I was listening to it a lot really this week, quite a bit. And but yeah, I when it comes to graduation and late registration for me just barely edges it out. And I guess I'll tell you why. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Of just so I guess I'll just punch through the track list, really. We'll start with that. Good Morning's a great track. Champion, I think it was on the reaction I talked about with Champion, the sample that they used, Their Eyes, in Their Eyes, but I was picking about how it felt like it was clipped. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was driving, I was listening, I was like, well, I'm being a little too picky about it. Let's listen to the rest of the song, because I was getting too fixated on that sample clip. And I noticed the rest of the beat it's kind of simple too. It's kind of got some claps and that sample and like I think one other little bass beat, and that's about it. So I was like, yeah, Champion's just not quite my jam. Stronger, I Wonder, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, fantastic tracks. All those are great tracks. Stronger, really, I really liked how much the Daft Punk sample was used. I got it confused. You guys pointed it out to me. I thought they were part of the song, and it turns out it was just a sample. I got confused by the annotation that was left on Genius because they put Daft Punk in the top, which is usually where they put like a feature for somebody who also has lyrics in the track. Anyway, so that was my mistake. I was so excited by the idea of Daft Punk and Kanye working together to make a song. I think that'd be fucking incredible. However, I don't think that has happened, and it certainly will not happen now. So Stronger's awesome track. That's such a great track. I Wonder is really good as well. Good Life, the sound in Good Life, the tone in Good Life, really, that song itself, to me, captures what I was expecting to hear throughout Graduation. I thought Graduation was going to be a very triumphant type of sound. And I mean, there's sounds certainly in this album, but I was kind of surprised that there are darker tracks like Barry Bonds and Drunk Hot Girls. The Can't Tell Me Nothing track is really interesting to me because when I was listening to it for the first time and breaking through the lyrics and really looking at what Kanye was saying and then pairing that to the chorus and you can't tell me nothing, you can't tell me nothing, I felt it was him lashing out at himself, like punishing himself for not taking the advice from his mom and some of I forget who else he mentions, but there's a couple people specifically he kind of calls out who are telling him, hey, you can't do these things, but he keeps, acting more stupidly, as he says. So that was the way I took it, but then people in the comments left some really, really good counterpoints. There was one guy that said, with him, once I get my money right, then you can't tell me nothing because in this country, money is speech. And when you've got all the money, then you can say whatever the hell you want. And I was like, that's a pretty compelling argument, in my opinion. There was another person that said, you can't tell me nothing was a defiant stance in that nobody in the hood can tell him anything because he's got all this money, so he's above those guys. But then nobody who was rich and white and privileged could tell him anything because he came from such, terrible beginnings, more or less to say. So that was a really good point too. It was really interesting to see different takes on that track. And really, when I come down to it now, when I think about it, it's kind of both. It seems like Kanye is just really struggling with this concept of you can't tell me nothing, because he's right to feel that way. He is right to feel like these people can't tell me anything. These people can't tell me anything. I'm going to do whatever I want. But then he also seems to struggle with that concept of not taking the advice that maybe he should follow, not listening to people he maybe should listen to. Interesting track. Barry Bonds, at first I didn't care for it, but it's kind of grown on me. The beat's kind of clunky and stuff. I don't know. There's just something about it. It's kind of grown on. I don't love it, but it has grown on me. Drunken Hot Girls. Now, I had no idea that Barry Bonds and Drunken Hot Girls were two of apparently the most hated Kanye songs there are. And some people, were leaving comments talking about they were happy that I got to hear it without external influence and without knowing that beforehand, because I was able to, have a certain opinion on it rather than just go, oh, these are terrible tracks because everybody says they're terrible. But that is not entirely true, because I have heard Yeezus and I have heard Hold My Liquor. And Drunken Hot Girls, the reason why that track is so interesting to me is because it feels like a precursor to everything that's happening in Hold My Liquor. Now, I would love to say it was intentional and that it was foreshadowed and stuff like that, but Kanye obviously had no idea whatever came down the road was going to happen. He had no idea he was going to write Yeezus or Hold My Liquor or anything like that. But I think because of that, my opinion of that song was influenced, just in a different way. Influenced by music when this album dropped didn't exist. So the people who formed their opinion on that song when this was the most recent album, that was all they had to go off of, was College Dropout and Late Registration, and then this. So kind of an interesting mix there too, just seeing different takes on that track and how I took it and how people take it. I don't know. It was just kind of interesting. Every now and then I get to Flashing Lights and I go, yeah, I don't really enjoy this one. But then it gets that little synthetic beat going. And then I go, oh yeah, I like Flashing Lights. And it's a cool track too, in the sense that it seems to be a slight personification of being caught up in touring and just a mild personification of, I guess, the touring life, the flashing lights. And then when you get into Homecoming, it kind of makes Homecoming make a little bit more sense. He's talking about going back to Chicago and how he misses Chicago and all this other stuff. Everything I Am is still my favorite track. Still my favorite track. I love that song. I think it's a fantastic song. The beat, the fact that, DJ Premier, I forgot his name, but it's written there on the Spotify. I wanted to say during the reaction that I was like, this sounds just like the guy off Illmatic. But when I thought that, I thought, don't be dumb. Because it makes it seem like, oh, there's only one guy that does all the record scratching. But the sound is so distinct. Like, he has a style, and it sounds just like the guy. So it was cool to me when people pointed out, oh, yeah, that's the guy from Illmatic. He did a lot of record scratching on that, too. And it's great. I love it. I love the record scratching. I love the piano. Everything I am. The concept that exists within the lyrics, what he's talking about, everything I'm not is what made me who I am. So, cool track. Still my favorite. The Glory... The sample, again, it's these high-pitched samples, I think, that get me. I don't really care for them that much. Don't really care for The Glory. And then Big Brother, really enjoyed Big Brother. I've seen people say they don't care for it, which, okay. But I like the idea that Kanye's being open about wrestling with, he's trying to be famous. He's working with Jay-Z, who is famous. And, this competitive nature that exists, whether you want it to or not. And it's cool how he talked about Diamonds from Sierra Leone and how Jay-Z came in and crushed it, because I felt that same way too when I heard that track. Like, yeah, Jay-Z just crushed it on his bit right there. So I just like that he acknowledges the struggle. He acknowledges, some of the maybe the rifts that exist within the relationship, where he thought the relationship was in a certain place, but then it kind of wasn't, because he had to buy tickets to go to the show rather than, get in and go with Jay-Z. I forget where it was, Madison Square Garden, I think. So why, right? Why do I think Graduation is just a little under Late Registration for me? I think really what it is Champion, The Glory, and Homecoming, and maybe Barry Bonds too. Homecoming throws me off every time Chris Martin, the guy from Coldplay. Every time I hear his voice, I'm like, why is the guy from Coldplay here? And I don't have, maybe I do have a problem with it, because it bothers me. It just throws me off. It throws me off so much. I can't It's not like he does a bad job. He does a good job, but every time I hear his voice, I'm like, oh, that's the guy from Coldplay. So I think really with those 3 tracks, those 4 tracks, I think it's a great album. But really, if you could take out, maybe Champion and replace it with what is it? Bittersweet. What's one of the bonus tracks? Bittersweet Poetry. Great track. Great track. And the lyrics are really interesting too, because what he's talking about, that I feel like it's an expansion upon the theme of Drunken Hot Girls, which leads you further into some of the stuff that happens in Hold My Liquor and Yeezus and all that stuff. So Bittersweet Poetry, I really like that track. I forget the name of the other one that's got John Mayer on it as well. The 2 bonus tracks, I feel like if I could switch out 2 of the tracks, like Champion and The Glory for Bittersweet Poetry, and the other one, the other bonus track, phenomenal album, fucking killer album. All that said, I can totally see why so many people call this their favorite Kanye album. There's so many good songs. It's concise. Late Registration's longer. It's like an hour 10 or something, and this one's 51 minutes. It's a concise playthrough. Pretty much every single track is easy to listen to and just bam, bam, one after another. So there you go. Talking about Late Registration just a little bit to kind of explain what the hell I'm on about. Why? Let me punch it up. This is why I like Late Registration a little bit more. Heard Him Say, great track. That little piano bit that's going on, the supporting vocals that are going on. Touch the Sky is a killer song. Gold Digger is a killer song. Drive Slow is a killer song. My Way Home, killer song. Crack Music, killer song. Roses, not necessarily a killer song, but very good. His grandmother dying and dealing with all that shit. Bring Me Down, I forget how that goes right now. That one's escaping my memory. Addiction, I really like Addiction. That's another precursor for the stuff that's coming. Diamonds from Sierra Leone is amazing. We Majors, like nice and bold and proud and just fucking awesome. Hey Mama is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, kind of ever. Celebration is slipping my mind. Gone, literally, probably my favorite Kanye song. Total top favorite Kanye song. I love Gone. Love that song. So there's just so many amazing tracks on Late Registration. So for me, it just barely edges it out. I guess that's really all I have to say about Graduation. I didn't really notice any prevailing theme that existed through the album. He's touching on certain topics, and the Good Morning track is interesting because it sounds so nice and so comforting, but then the lyrical content it's almost the opposite. Like he's talking about how he kind of took off and did his own thing instead of going through college, while everybody else who seems to be afraid of doing that decided, well, I'll figure out what I want to do and stay in college. And then one day you wake up and here's your diploma and that's it. Now you have to go out into the world when you were kind of afraid to go out into the world to begin with, but now you have no choice. You have to. So that's an interesting juxtaposition that exists there. There you go. It almost feels like a generic additional thoughts video, because really all I had to say was, just touch on the specific songs. But I know that's how it goes, I guess. Do you want to hit me anymore with the stupid thing?
Yeah.
Okay, stand by for more wax.
Mm-hmm. This is for the generic video.
Oh, for the generic video. You didn't hit me on the head.
Yeah.
Give me one thwap on the head. No, not gonna do it.
No.
Okay. Friday, Mad Villainy. I look forward to it. We'll see you guys soon.